Guys, we're taking back everything we said about Connor. Guys, Bug, if you edit this video, grab this clip and put this at the start. Disclaimer. I do not think anything bad about Counterpoints. Counterpoints totally redeemed. I love Counterpoints. He's defending Mr. Girl to Old Man Laundry. This is based. This is fucking based. This is good content. He name dropped me. He's based. I love Counterpoints. I love Counterpoints. He's not a mall cop. He was a real cop. He watched his partner die in his arms. Bro, it's so funny that Connor does these streams on his Counterpoints 40k channel where all of his subs are there for Warhammer 40k content and then they just are subjected to this bullshit in their Twitch, in a YouTube subscription feed. Like, bro, none of these people want to watch your shit, bro. On with Old Man Laundry as well. Doxer, Freak, scammed a student fund.
Evening, one and all. My name is Connor. I run a few channels under the brand Counterpoints. I'm live tonight with Old Man Laundry. I'm going to let him introduce himself. We've been kind of swimming in each other's orbits for quite a while, so we have some, at least I think that we probably first touched gloves on like Lauren Southern and I think you asked me about the Great Replacement one time in Twitch DMs, and I sent you some content, and then you were wary of me for a bit, and then we kind of came back into each other's circles again. So introduce yourself to the folks at home.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, as Connor said, I'm Old Man Laundry. I am a former elected official and longtime political operative turned commentator and part-time YouTuber. That's about probably good.
Well, and
this guy's so fucking boring and like mentally stunted. It's crazy.
I would say some takedown pieces, some research, and I've also seen you kind of advertise the fact that you've done opposition research professionally in the past. Would you mind expanding on that?
Yeah, but do you want me to expand on the past opposition research stuff, or
your certain set of skills? What do you do? How do you do it? How did you learn it? All that kind of stuff.
Doxing is what he's talking about here. Doxing is what he's talking about.
Yeah. So I guess it falls under the category of OSINT, primarily. So open source intelligence gathering. And I got into that skill set, or I found that skill set out of necessity. So I was involved in politics for about a decade, and from like the age of 17 to like 26. And then in 2016, when cancel culture really started to become a popular thing to do, and it was kind of at its absolute most insane peak, it came my direction. It found me, and a guy who turns out to be basically a career criminal crafted a story, used an alias online to accuse me of basically engaging in criminal activity, which I never had and haven't since.
So I don't know what this cope story is. We'll have to go over this at some point soon. I'm gonna have to do my laundry stream soon. I've been saying I'll do it for ages. I've been meaning to do it for ages. It's just everything together and so how I'm presenting it. But this is like kind of cope. It was like a newspaper wrote about this, and there were literally people who he knew that gave evidence against him. Like this woman, there was a woman who he asked for some of the money, I believe, that he redirected from a student project to pay a Kickstarter TV show, let him on to present his business idea, I believe. We'll go over that. We'll try and do that in the next week, I think.
As opposed to this guy who's had a very long criminal history spanning like 4 different states and like a decade. But he crafted the story, made it go viral in my small town. Got picked up by the newspaper, and they ran like 3 straight days of, pretty classic defamatory coverage of this false story. And I had to figure out.
If it's defamatory, then why couldn't you see
how to get my story out there and prove my case? And a lot of that ended up having to involve learning these open source intelligence gathering techniques to be able to demonstrate, who the individual was who created the story and prove that I was innocent. And that also got me to a point where I became much more cynical about media, and in very significant air quotes, modern journalism and modern journalists. I would say as a lefty, I have a pretty, uh, I, I think my takes on the media and journalism in the modern age is probably much more aligned with people such as yourself.
Yeah. What, just skepticism and knowing that it's a bunch of, no offense to anybody who's a professional journalist, but it's a bunch of slightly above average intelligence people getting something that bites and then just running with it as far as they can, and maybe it gets contradicted, maybe it doesn't, but either way they have a story, so who gives a shit?
Yes, that, and as I uncovered when I was trying to understand the local newspapers' reluctance.
Thomas takes on like journalism shit so fucking retarded. They're so brain dead.
I wouldn't even say reluctance, but their refusal to correct the story and own up to their mistakes. What I realized was that they didn't have it's the local paper of record, which is a technical but important phrase, but they didn't have a correction policy and they don't have a code of ethics.
It's kind of a smaller town.
Well, yeah, so I don't live there anymore. After, the whole thing completely destroyed my life, and I've now been diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder from a direct result of all of that. But it was a town or city of 50,000-ish people. But ironically, I was named.
Yeah, so he GoFundMe'd ketamine treatment on Twitter. GoFundMe for ketamine to treat his PSD.
Named a finalist for Person of the Year in the same paper that then a few months later basically made me public enemy #1. And
So they just smell blood in the water, so to speak. So they're just like, oh yeah, fuck this guy. He's relatively popular. People know his name. Let's let's just run with it and kind of, if it bleeds, it leads, so to speak.
Yeah, and so what I found out though was that the local newspaper is owned by a NASDAQ mega corporation that owns hundreds of papers across the country, and they all are basically, if you go to these different newspapers' websites, they're basically all identical. They just swap out the logo and the local weather forecast.
Yep, that's how a lot of local newspapers are run. Yeah.
And all of these papers, which are the local newspapers serving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, they too don't have correction policies or a code of ethics governing their newspapers either, which I just find really horrifying, because it's very easy to acknowledge how shitty our cable news, our national news has gotten. But people often turn to local news as like, yeah, but at least local news is still pretty good. It's like, actually, it's not. It's actually just as bad. So yeah, that you go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, so that's kind of your backstory. Ran in politics for a decade, got screwed over by some a-hole who made it his life's mission to kind of defame you, screw you over. Didn't find the papers particularly responsive. Realized that a shitload of media personalities are assholes who just kind of if it bleeds, it leads. They don't necessarily care about the consequences of the actions that happened, and then you kind of get into Twitch poll. So with Twitch, like I call it Twitch poll, but obviously it's Twitch and YouTube politics, with Twitch kind of pushing out the alternative media punditry that has kind of become its own little ecosphere under their purview. But what is your goal and or role in that sphere? So for me, I obviously think that I'm fighting for like centrist understanding of multiple positions on different issues. I think that leftoids have gone a little bit too crazy, so I view myself as a counterweight.
Nobody cares, Connor. Literally nobody gives a fuck, especially on your Warhammer channel, bro.
And getting sucked into the whole ecosystem of people who their primary thing is, we hate that guy. And I bought into a lot of the crazy shit that they were promoting, and I started to, I mean, I wish I could have kind of a allow me to reintroduce myself moment, but you only get one chance to make a first impression. But yeah, I mean, I feel like what I do for the most part in the political commentary space is trying to hold people accountable and promote a sense of responsibility that these people who, just like news outlets of the past, they have a serious responsibility inherent in the fact that they're influencing thousands of people. So basically, you've had this migration away from old media to this refreshing form of new media. But if you think that a migration away from cable news to people like Hassan Piker is like a net positive, you're out of your mind.
It's funny that you went that way, because I have found it liberating. I think I found it personally liberating.
Yeah, don't you guys just hate Hassan? Don't you just hate Hassan? Bro, I fucking hate Hassan, and literally I cannot stand people who will just sit there and go, oh yeah, Hassan bad. Hassan bad. We get it, bro. So we don't want to hear about politics? Yeah.
You can get a web camera and a live stream OBS setup. You can YouTube these things. You can figure out the technical side of things. Relatively speaking, you can just start commenting on issues. And relatively speaking, if you articulate yourself well and all that kind of stuff, then you can get a few dozen to a few hundred to a few thousand people watching you. But I think that what I was going to bring up, which you just brought up, is the fact that legacy media at least had the veneer of trying to be objective, right? They all had to live in Walter Cronkite's shadow of telling the truth and bringing you objective facts and all that kind of stuff. Whereas what we're really talking about in the modern era and in the alternative media space, we're talking about alternative media punditry. And so it's just commentary on geopolitical events, but they help form opinions. And that was one of the interesting things. Getting a little bit closer to Lauren Southern, was kind of helping her shoot the Tim Pool documentary, and then also working with her on Crossfire. I saw that there was intent and there was like political bias and there was passion, but all of that passion pointed in one very clear direction. And there wasn't a lot of doubt. And even if there were doubts or contradictory information or whatever, then it wasn't, I wouldn't say Lauren ever lied, but there wasn't an attempt to juxtapose the information we were presenting with the strongest arguments of our opponents. And so I kind of feel like, people who do documentaries, they can say, well, that's not my job, is to find my opponents and present their perspective for them. I understand that. But then we're also talking about trying to govern a populace in the information age, which is increasingly difficult when you just have charismatic assholes running everything.
Yeah, well, and as much as I dislike Lauren as a political individual, I mean, I am disinterested in her as a human, because that's not who I am. Like, I don't dislike that. I dislike the political character that she is, and she can dislike me too. But at least I will give her credit for the fact that at least she puts her name to her work, which is probably my biggest irritation with the political commentary space in general, is that you have so many people who refuse to let people know what their name is, which sounds like, oh, well, that's doxing.
This guy's fucking insane.
Which is probably my biggest irritation with the political commentary space in general, is that you have so many people who refuse to let people know what their name is, which sounds like, oh, well, that's doxing. Well, shouldn't people have the ability to assess the credibility of the people who are shaping their political opinions? Because if not...
Yeah, so I was just about to dox you for saying shit about Hamas on Twitter. What a sack of shit, dude. It's crazy that no one will hold Connor accountable for this. Like, bro, let's just bring our guy to sit here and promote doxing. Sit here and say, yeah, doxing is really base, actually. You shouldn't be allowed to be anonymous on the internet. You should have your name exposed if I don't like you. How about fuck you, bro? How about you go and get your head caved in, bro? Please? Please? Fuck you. What? Honestly. What a sack of shit.
And we should just assume that they're retarded, that they don't have any sort of credibility at all. You have people who sound like they speak very authoritatively, but that doesn't mean that they have any authority. You can sound like you have a, like, and some people do it better, where they will acknowledge, like, hey, I'm just a normal person. But other people in the space will, they want to pretend like they're academics, but they're actually not. They're so it drives me insane when I can't. And a lot of this does stem back to my own experiences of having my life destroyed temporarily by somebody who used a fake name and was treated as a credible individual, and that is very dangerous in certain situations.
Yeah, my interjection against that, like, my people have found my personal information just because I don't think that my operational security was as aggressive as I should have been. But I also have I have an opinion on that, which is, relatively speaking, is I do say what I mean, and I mean what I say. Therefore, if you do have a problem with what I'm saying, then you are more than welcome to speak to me about it online, relatively speaking. And also, I think that's how a functional society works, is when people are accountable for the words that they say. So I don't go out here, putting my social on social media, like my social security number on social media, and I try not to, put my last name everywhere all the time. But relatively speaking, you can find me. So the reason why I do that, though, is because I don't want my family to be threatened, hurt, stalked, doxed, harassed. And it would be one thing if I was a multimillionaire in a gated community who had, all the guns that I've ever wanted.
It's kind of pushing back a bit.
But the truth is that I am a normal Joe. I am not making an incredible amount of money. So I don't have the insulation. I think for public figures like celebrities or politicians, there's the insulation of wealth and security details in gated communities that makes them feel safer. Whereas alternative media pundits, we're kind of out here on our own ass. So I agree and disagree, just to summarize it. I agree that people should be willing to back the things that they say, and our space is plagued by pundits who hide behind alter egos, and they say wild shit for attention, and they would be a lot better, or the world would be a lot better off if those people didn't do what they did. But I also understand the security. Yeah, but I understand the security concern, the legitimate security concerns of average people in the space.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and that's even something that I struggle with, because I don't care if people come after me. I mean, ideally not.
It's something I struggle with. I'm gonna keep doxing people, but it's something I struggle with. Bro, please get fucked. Holy shit.
Like IRL, but like you keep my family out of it. Like, I've got 2 kids,
but people
I've got a wife, but people are crazy. Now, I do wonder though about, any professional journalist. They have to put their names to all of their work, and they, in theory, open themselves up to all of the same issues that you just described. I think it's probably amplified by the fact that does seem that the audience that this world attracts is a little uniquely. There's more yahoos here in this space, at proportionate to probably traditional media.
Well, so this is my challenge. I've been thinking about this for days now, because I view my role as a lot different than the people who have skyrocketed in popularity. And then I also wonder about the models for success in media commentary. And I also even think about the Warhammer channel as an example. So with the Warhammer channel, you're not coming to me because I'm a gigabrain genius, whatever. And you just fell in love with the concept of Connor and Counterpoints. What happens is I took a vehicle that was already popular, and I just research about it, and I talk about it, and I'm not so much the thing that you're coming for the thing that you're already attracted to. And so when it comes to alternative media punditry, something that I've seen.
That's why I'm now forcing my Warhammer viewers to watch me ramble about political doxing with Andrew Landre on a fucking stream. Okay. Like, why is this on this channel? Well, I know why it's on this channel, because he doesn't use those other channel. But it's just so cringe to put up a totally irrelevant stream just because you got popular on this channel. So embarrassing. So embarrassing.
With people who have skyrocketed popularity. Now, maybe they have a belief set that vaguely aligns with conservatism. Or maybe they have a belief set, I'm thinking of Sneeko, that vaguely aligns with like red pill and man, whatever, like MRA shit and going your own way, but also banging thoughts and being Muslim and all the weird shit that he's doing. But what I think those guys are doing, though, is they're not them own selves and then putting out what they believe and then they're de facto popular. They're tapping into a cultural phenomena that already exists. And so, but the problem with that is you get into a audience creator feedback loop where what ends up happening is you're just saying what that group of people want to hear instead of the truth or probably what they need to hear. So I don't think Sneeko's people need to hear like, hey, work 70 hours a week, become a social media influencer, bang Instagram models, but also be Muslim. That's not what they need to hear. What they need to hear is get your shit together, wash your balls, get a fucking job, start paying your fucking bills, and then focus on yourself instead of consuming this fucking false prophet. So that's actually that. Sorry for ranting, but that's what I believe the space is. It's filled with false prophets.
Yeah. So I kind of
Well, so profound, Connor. So profound.
Where it kind of occurred to me that one of the things that I got really wrong about my assessment,
just like Warhammer when you think about it,
which I think led me astray in a lot of respects for quite a while, was I felt like the people who act like they take all this stuff seriously actually take it seriously. And I feel like the epiphany was, oh, for the most part, the people who tune into their favorite streamer on a very regular basis, they don't actually take this stuff that seriously. I mean, like when somebody's tuning into whether it's Destiny or Hassan or name whatever streamer, I feel like it's just like they're hanging out with their friends. Not so much that they are coming to them as an expert. The question is like, what are the ratios? Because if there's a significant number of people in any of those audiences who are going to them as their primary source of political information and analysis, and that's how they're shaping their own politics, then the streamer should take more responsibility and people should hold them more accountable. But then at the same time, like I said, if it's mostly that people are just kind of like just thinking around and hanging out with their friends and memeing.
But yeah, so I agree with you that this is something that a lot of people have, or I think Vosh in particular has brought up multiple times, is that a lot of people in Twitch and YouTube politics, and I think he criticizes lefties in particular on this, is that it's just a social club. That's all it is. Like you have gamer bros, you got people who play Call of Duty, you got people who play fight games, you got people who play Warhammer, you got people who, you know, they like to hunt or whatever, they got a hobby, and then they build a social space around their hobbies, and then they mix up.
Hey guys, I'm going to preview this for a minute. Okay. Ciao.
Their identity in that thing. And so with Twitch and YouTube politics, what it is I think we like to think that we're smarter. We like to think that we're better informed. We like to think that we're more in tune with history and politics and philosophy and all that kind of stuff. And then with that veneer of, you know, intelligence and study and all that kind of stuff, we like to look down on all the plebeians who are interested in normie bullshit. And then we like to wrap up sex drama and tribal drama and all that kind of stuff into it. So you're right. It's majority a social space. And then the political tribalism and analysis is almost a second thought. But what I like about the development of the space, because I've been here, I don't know, probably 3 years now, is that I do see evolutions in perception that go over time. And I think it's because the audience grows in their lives outside of Twitch and YouTube politics, so their tastes change a little bit. But also the creators build up a body of work in which you can see all their flaws and mistakes. So I think that the only reason why, in my perception, of course, because I'm a certified Hassan hater, the reason why Willie Mac Show was able to take such a fucking huge bite out of Hassan to his face is because Hassan has made a few years of mistakes and all of his haters have been bringing it up consistently. But the internal audience, you know, would always make excuses and all that kind of stuff. But when you have Willie Mac Show, who's effectively a drama YouTuber, and Hassan picks him because he's like, I'm going to get an easy dub against this dumbass, ahistorical, apolitical commentary guy. And the commentary guy's like, no, let me drag you back to the argument on why you're wrong and why you suck. I think you pierce that armor, and I think you take hits out of it. So people might still watch Hassan for his commentary or think he's cool or they're jealous of his lifestyle or whatever. But I still think that as 14-year-old kids who want to bang porn stars become 25-year-olds adults with careers, they're going to realize like, oh, this guy's like, he's handsome and he bangs porn stars and he's rich, but he's also kind of a fucking loser. And he also is kind of retarded. And I think people will learn that.
Yeah. I guess two things. One,
what's the mall cop been saying? Why is he paused?
When I brought
Pierce his armor like Warhammer. I get it.
brought up the difference between like when to take people seriously and when to not take them seriously. I feel like one of the things I screwed up with initially was if you're talking about somebody like Destiny, for example, if he's streaming for 8 hours, if 6 of those hours is basically just like him with his bros, he might say some off-color shit because he's just hanging with his bros and they're just shooting the shit. They're memeing with each other. And when I'm with my friends or when I'm with my brother, there are probably things that are said there that I wouldn't want to be like entered into the public record about me as a serious individual. But then it feels like, I guess my shift is I kind of don't give a shit about the 6 hours part. Before I might have been like, oh my god, he said that naughty word, or that, like, he's a serious person that people come to for like he's that should be like totally discrediting, totally just
Did you see
yeah.
Did you see the most recent Destiny N-word clip?
I did. And
I
now
love
and then
that so much.
it
He
was
like, I would never say the N-word.
and that's a perfect example, I guess, of like if me a year ago would have seen that, I would have been like, what the fuck? He's one of the most influential left-wing political commentators. He should not be saying stuff like that because he's serious. Or I take him seriously because other people take him seriously. But what I realize now is it's like I'll hold people to that high standard when they are like in a debate or when they are on a panel, because that's when they're actually taking themselves seriously, and that's when I think other people should properly take them seriously. So if he said the N-word in a like formal debate, that would probably not go over as well as if he just said it in the way that he did.
Well, okay, so this is interesting to me because I still think that there's a level of performativity even in debates. So for instance, like, or panels or politics. Well, yeah, but just as an example, I brought this up. My audience knows this rant. I'll try to keep it brief, but basically, like, I joke about creating the United Imperium of the Americas, right? Where, like,
guys, Imperium. You know, like Warhammer. Guys, do you get it?
Like, the United States annexes Central America down to the Darien Strait, south of Panama Canal.
This is how all Warhammer guys are, by the way. If you ever talk to a Warhammer guy about politics, they're always like this. They think of it like it's Warhammer. That's actually how they think of it, as like they read like the Horus Heresy or whatever that shit's called, and like, wow, this is just like real life.
And then, you know, we help Colombia recreate Gran Colombia in the northern part of South America, and they partner with Brazil in order to create.
My brother reads Warhammer, and this is 100% true, lol. Yep, I'm telling you for a fact. I've known so many Warhammer guys. They're all like that.
Create the southern United States of America. And so this isn't a real policy, right? Because it would actually involve, like let's just say that we were taking me seriously for a second. It would actually involve English-speaking American military members going into Central America, getting into gunfights with narco.
Guys, can everyone just wish Bomber luck in his drink driving tonight?
Cartels and gangs, horrific violence being done to American military service members while they were like in the rear with the gear. I expect some of them would get like kidnapped and murdered like horribly, and they would be like, you know, they would get their heads chainsawed off on, you know, whatever that website is that people post like gore videos on. I forget what it is. Live Leak. You would have American military service members executed in grisly ways on Live Leak. You would have untold deaths of Central and South Americans and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe eventually you would see like a positive result.
Live Leak's gone. Anyway.
Right, which would be like this united free trade area that brings stability to Central and South America, and then as a result, like the Americas flourish. And so, but nestled in that is a real idea, and the real idea is that Central and South America need security. They need to be rid of corruption. They need better trade agreements that are more equitable with like the northern United States. We need to not see these people as some far off distant land that we go get drunk at and it's like a fantasy, and then we just come back to our real lives here. And they shouldn't be just endless drug factories of poverty and corruption. That's really what I'm saying. Now,
Stunning and brave. We need to improve South America. Very stunning.
The entirety of the United States backs me, and they're like, yes, Connor, invading South and Central America is based, let's do it, then maybe as like the centrist dictator, I would do it.
So it's again, just like, this is like the Warhammer Bro fetishization of war that they apply to like real life. It's like fine to talk like this about like fictional factions, fictional planets. But when you talk about this like real life politics, you sound like a fucking retard. You sound so dumb. And I didn't realize that because they think they're really smart because they've read like some history and they've read Warhammer. But you sound really fucking dumb.
But what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to get people to reconceptualize the way that we view geopolitics and poverty and wealth and trade and all that kind of stuff, because right now it seems like the American foreign policy is perfectly happy to just let these people wallow in misery, corruption, poverty, and unfair
I think he would just
trade.
shoot you instead,
So,
Queen Bee.
I know that I've been talking for a while, but the point is that I will bring up the invade Central and South America policy as if I'm serious on a panel, but that's not really what I'm talking about. And so and I don't find myself alone in this rhetorical tactic. Like Doobie, for instance, I think he just he's a semi-popular debater on the Prime Kai Reverie Roundtable. I find him taking extreme positions.
Nobody is semi-popular on Prime Kai. Okay,
think about ideas.
That is an oxymoron. There is no popularity in Prime Kai. Okay.
Yeah, and that none of that is problematic unless people have a reverence for the credibility of the people who are saying these things that is higher than it should be. And I wanted to ask you, I feel like
wacky and fun.
I'm sympathetic to your views of keeping, the privacy of the creators for all the reasons you described. But then I also wonder about, like, if somebody is talking, and it's especially important in the political space, because if you're talking about like policies related to children, for example, or policies related to like domestic violence, you're talking about rape accusations against.
It's kind of well known in the Warhammer community. I don't know if it's well known. It's probably quite a big community, I imagine. He's probably but he's got a sizable channel. He makes decent money off of it. I can only see him like. Oh, he's got fucking massive views.
Somebody, and you are talking, you're pontificating about the details and the standards, and okay, if that person who is talking about these topics is using a pseudonym to do it, people are taking them seriously. But if you were to find out their real name and you do a little bit of research about who they are, you find out that one of them's a pedophile, the other one has actually like punched their wife or choked them. That would be pretty important information to have before you are trying to figure out how seriously you ought to take that person's perspective on these things.
Do you have any names in mind? You
no.
don't have to say that if you don't.
No.
But hold on. So I agree with you there. And
here's one for you. When we first interacted like a year and a half ago, this before I kind of became a little leery of you. I commented on, I think the first time I saw you doing a debate or panel was regarding the Don't Say Gay bill.
Mhm.
And I commented or tweeted that it was nice to know that there was at least one parent on that panel, because I found myself as a liberal slash progressive Democrat agreeing with you, in part because I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way that anybody on this panel who are saying these other things could have children, like, and say that. But at the end of the day, you're talking about policies that impact children and thereby parents.
There's like dozens of channels that just read Warhammer wikis off. I don't understand how it'll get so popular. It's like that for like all big media franchises. Like if I were to, I'm not logged into my main YouTube on this browser, but if I were to go onto my YouTube homepage, like the sort of shit I get is like Jujutsu Kaisen, like character summaries and theories. I get Invincible stuff a lot of the time, even though I don't fucking watch any of it. So that's just like summarizing a character or summarizing a story arc. It's yeah, that content does really well if you can get into it. Some of them have been replaced by AI at this point. I saw there was like a Marvel channel that was literally, it was an AI voice, probably AI script, just summarizing its characters. Nerd, yeah, in it.
And then you've got these like 20-something jackasses who don't have kids, who have no interest in having children, don't understand what that's like, and they're having this enormous influence on these policies in a very real way, when they probably shouldn't be. Like, nobody should give a shit, because what do they know?
Yeah, so this is, I'm gonna be a little mean to somebody who I consider an internet friend, but like Synth, for instance, she transitioned later in life. She felt like she got fucked over by the system because she wasn't allowed to talk about trans issues or gender identity or whatever in school, and so she was taking issue with my more conservative perspective on like what kids should be shared with and when. And so I kind of took her perspective into account, because she just mentioned the fact that it's like, hey, you're saying that all this educational stuff should be presented in a liberal way. Like, there's multiple choices here as a young person that you can make. This is what religious people believe. This is what secular people believe, et cetera, et cetera. You as a young budding adult, you need to make your own decisions. And I felt like that was like a reasonable compromise. And she was like, oh yeah, well, as the truth is that like puberty kind of hits a little bit earlier. Actually, it's towards the end of elementary school. And I was like, okay, that's a decent compromise. But then, not to shit on them too hard, because it is Twitter after all, I think in the past like couple of weeks, I just see the most like disgusting, brutally sexual, gross fucking tweet about like sex shit ever. And it's just like, why the fuck would I, like I already felt like my original perspective was reasonable. Why the fuck would I take your opinion into consideration when you're kind of like intentionally posting upsetting, gross, sexual shit online that a bunch of other people are going to see? And so that's where I feel like being online, creating a persona, and then having any kind of personality whatsoever and any kind of following, it leads to you having a credence that if you were in a face-to-face conversation and you said the wild shit that you're saying on social media, people would not take you seriously at all. They would laugh you out of the fucking meeting, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, I even think of how many times I have commented on different panels, just in the chat, like, hey, could like Wick, for example. I feel like I've asked him, like, hey, Wick, can you ask for a show of hands of how many of these people are parents, just because I'm curious. And
but
like,
you already know the answer,
right? But it's
So
but it's
people
still,
are reading that. People are reading that as an attack.
But the thing is, then you'll have all of these comments replying saying, what like that matters at all? Like, why does that matter? And it's like, because it does. In the same way that the lefties will often say, like, oh, here's this panel talking about women's rights and abortion, and it's all a bunch of old dudes. Like, okay, if that is a relevant dynamic there, then it's also a relevant dynamic when you're talking about setting policies for like what kind of sexual conversations we're having with kids in the classroom.
I have stopped expecting fairness a long time ago, and I think I think my goal, relatively speaking, I'm trying to do a weekly show with Brianna Wu, which so far, out of a month of allegedly doing this together, we've gotten one weekend. But...
Oh no, Connor. It's getting swerved by Wu. No. Oh, brother. Oh, brother.
She's in tune with the Democrats. She has access to money, et cetera, et cetera. So my goal is to take some of that money, time, attention, influence, whatever, and try to make it into something real. Because the truth is that I don't entirely agree with Chud Logic and Kuihman, who are content nihilists.
What? Oh, what, dude? Why am I getting mentioned so much? What is going on, dude? Sorry, I can't deal with this. I just okay. All right. Well, we'll watch this. Okay, that came out of fucking nowhere, didn't it? Holy shit!
A bunch of old dudes. Like, okay, if that is a relevant dynamic there, then it's also a relevant dynamic when you're talking about setting policies for like what kind of sexual conversations we're having with kids in the classroom.
I have stopped expecting fairness a long time ago, and I think I think my goal.
Save it now. One day use it in the intro comp of your name. Oh, Billy, you must. 1 minute. Let me send you something on Discord. I'll put it in my chat and tag you. We got food shop saying Mantis Repairman's name. Source of support made something out of it. Sent that.
You know, relatively speaking, you know, I'm trying to do a weekly show with Brianna Wu, which so far, you know, out of a month of allegedly doing this together, we've gotten one weekend. But you know, she's in tune with the Democrats. She has access to money, et cetera, et cetera. So my goal is to take some of that money, time, attention, influence, whatever, and try to make it into something real. Because the truth is that I don't entirely agree with Chud Logic and Kuihman, who are content nihilists. They literally believe that none of
Dude, why am I being cited? I'm being cited alongside Chud now. That's crazy. Okay, never mind. We're on Team Connor. Okay, he's pushing my name out here. Okay,
this matters. It's all a bunch of autists getting together, smashing
Facts.
into each other for content.
True.
People having wild takes and all that kind of stuff. The only thing it's good for is laughing or making fun of them. And then the only thing that is interesting on top of that is people having sex with each other. And then the explosion of drama and failed relationships as a result of people.
Is he traumatized over the Lauren Southern stuff? Is that what's going on? Oof.
People having sex with. That's all they care about. Is they care about the personal days of our lives style soap opera that happens in Twitch politics that people are enamored with.
But then somebody like Chud, by the way, who I've had a total evolution of my relationship with him.
Jesus Christ.
Too. I he and I are on good terms now, so I'm willing to say this about him because I think he will, if he catches this clip, would understand where I'm coming from. It does strike me as very ironic that somebody like Chud, I would love to understand his logic for why somebody like him.
I want to understand Chud's logic, but just
spends every day, 8 hours a day, like digging into the nitty-gritty details of the personal lives of other people, but then is always quick to say, well, I'm a very private person. You don't try to find...
Well, because you can discuss what people give out, right? That's the point. Just don't give it out. Don't want people to talk about it.
Find out information about me because it's like, well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, right? And I think he would probably say that these other people put this stuff out there.
True.
Well,
and he's really reacting to what's public already. But at the same
time, that is his defense, because he has mentioned in the past that he does not put his relationship status out there. He doesn't bring his girlfriend on or whatever. Or I know he's not gay, so I don't think it's a boyfriend. But he doesn't. He doesn't bring his bisexual twink fucking girlfriend, boyfriend, they be partner out on a stream. And the reason why they don't do that, or he doesn't do that, is because he has kids.
Chud.
Yeah. So he doesn't have, or he has kids. I think he, as far as I know, he's on relatively good terms with his wife, or his ex-wife, but he doesn't want that spilling over to affect his kids, and he also doesn't want it spilling over and affecting his relationship, so he's very private. Whereas I know more about Destiny's sex life than I know about, my own sex life, and so
that's
kind of funny.
Weirdly close to home,
right. So.
But, it's not anything that we've asked for.
Well, but then it's also like a bus crash. I can't tear myself away from it. Like I was gonna quote tweet this because somebody took they did like 35-second clips of like Destiny vague posting about whatever drama he's in right now. And he's vague posting, and I wanted to quote tweet and be like, how can I make this drama about me? But that's like how, that's like the instinct as like a creator is like, how do I inject myself into this? How do I get into the center of the attention? How do I get myself into the center of the drama or whatever? Or how am I peripheral on the drama so I can catch some spillover attention as we comment on it? But then you also realize that like he's a real human being who's dealing with real shit, and he acts like none of this stuff bothers him, but you can tell that it kind of does. And so anyways, the whole reason why I went on that tangent is just because it's like I see Chud's logic behind the way that he conducts business.
They've got to be doing it intentionally. That can't be, bro.
And I think it's good for his business. But I also think that he goes too far with the nihilism, where he just doesn't believe that anything productive can come from this space at all.
Yeah, and it's weird because when Chud is at his best, in my view, he he
I'm just grabbing something. I'm
in
still listening.
debates is one of the best, one of the most compelling. When he, I guess, sheds.
Really? I don't know. I don't think almost anyone agrees that Chud like the best debater in the world, right? He can handle himself for sure, but the idea that Chud is like the best debater ever is not true. Chud kind of got owned by his first debate with right of reply. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of brutal. Who else did he kind of get owned by? I feel like he's lost a few.
I'm trying to figure out where my Shepherd Cane back yanker thing is. I couldn't find it the other day.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
George Floyd pigeon guy. Oh, Anglo pigeon. Did he go on? I feel like I remember that.
It's awesome. But mine's blue. It's kind of gay compared to your big.
I have a
black
blue one too if it's smaller.
Oh yeah, well, but I guess with Chud, I feel like when he's at his worst, he kind of
Extremely
foments
divorced
the
dad
worst
vibes.
elements of this space because of the nihilism part. But what I think is interesting, just from like a philosophical standpoint, is that when he talks about the valid reasons why he does not want to become more public about the things he's very careful to keep private and keep separate from what he does in the public eye, there's an inherent acknowledgement of how awful this space and the people that are being drawn into it, and how bad it is. So it's like he's creating the thing that even he knows he wouldn't want to come anywhere near him as a real person. Yeah. But I feel like that's the case with so many of these people, and it's probably a more.
This sounds like Andrew Landry like laying out his reasoning for why he could dox Chud. That's how it comes off. Because he was literally, this is literally what he was saying before, was, these people, if they shouldn't talk shit if they want to get hit, is basically what he's saying. But it's like, bro, it doesn't give you the right to go and fucking doxing people. I'm confused. Which of these chicks watches Lolly again? None of them this time.
Obnoxious phenomenon when Chud doesn't take himself seriously. But then when you have people who do take themselves seriously, but don't, they are just as guarded as Chud is about, trying to figure out, like, this person's trying to pretend they're an academic, but could I see, like, what's your academic background?
That doesn't bother me as much, and maybe that's my next step. So my frustration is that I think food shops, I don't know if you're
No way are we doing this. No way. Is this what we're about to do? Oh god, FSL's in chat, guys. FSL in chat. Holy fuck, it's so over.
You're aware of the drama, but basically,
I only know, I only know that they are like, yeah.
I can passingly summarize it, which is,
please do.
Here we go.
Food Shops has run panels and done debates and conversations and all that kind of stuff. They're a trans gal, to my knowledge. They were...
Oh, this is gonna be fucking brilliant, isn't it? Holy shit.
We're friends with Reservoir. They admitted to consuming lolicon as a part of their pornographic diet. For those of you who don't know,
pornographic diet. What is man's talking about? Oh my
Lolicon
god.
is deliberately drawn underage, Japanese girls who are in provocative sexual scenarios. And she said that like, hey, I'm not, attracted to children, but I do consume this as my pornographic diet because it aligns with some of my tastes in petite women and sub dom play and like all that kind of shit. And I want to destigmatize, the maybe not consumption of lolicon, but I want to destigmatize XYZ about pedophilia in order to make, people
It's a very nice way of putting it. I'll say
who
that.
have either POCD, which is pedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder, where you obsess over the fact over whether or not you're dangerous to children, but you actually aren't, and pedophiles because I want to make society better or whatever. Chud said that based off of that information, he would no longer be participating in her panels and also would not hold it against any other creators if they stopped associating with food shops, but that he was not going to make a firm critique about.
Oh, there's way too much about this shit. There's this DJ shit as a dad who worked in a school. What is this guy doing at this time? Is he watching my videos? I don't even know, dude. Oh man.
Whether or not the consumption of lolicon was like something that he would morally object to. It was just something that he wouldn't choose to associate himself with for whatever fucking reason. And for me, I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, Chud, do you think like a bunch of your fucking like audience, and I love Chud by the way, but do you think like a bunch of your fucking audience members like consume lolicon, which is why like you're not willing to fucking criticize it? Because like for me, it's like, dude, if you're looking at,
is that, I don't know if that's what Chud's issue is. I don't. Guys, have we got Lolly enjoys in chat? Anything Lolly enjoys in chat? I think Chud just has a baseline pro-free speech position, but while he finds Lolly uncomfortable, he doesn't want to make a massive moral claim on it, right? I feel like that's most people who defend Lolly. Defend, quote unquote. Don't say it's wrong. That's the position. Okay, well, let's go back and listen to this full thought.
too. It was just something that he wouldn't choose to associate himself with for whatever fucking reason. And for me, I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, Chud, do you think like a bunch of your fucking like audience, and I love Chud by the way, but do you think like a bunch of your fucking audience members like consume lolicon, which is why like you're not willing to fucking criticize it? Because like
I don't think there's a bunch of lolicons in Chud's audience. I'm gonna be real. I don't know. It could be.
If you're looking at one, if you're producing that shit, then you're fucked up. Like you're fucked up in the head. You are probably a pedophile and you should fucking stop. Literally go to your nearest fucking church and convert. Like, I don't care if it's Buddhist or Catholic or fucking Presbyterian or whatever. Just fucking stop what you're doing. Go get help. Like the fucking Michael Jordan meme. And then two, if you're consuming it and your justification is like, oh, well, no children are hurt, therefore, like, it's not a big deal or whatever. It's like, no, you're taking the worst parts of yourself, you're opening it up, and you're reinforcing that part of your brain. And if you have children in the future, then what's going to happen is, like, I don't know how much...
Well, there's nothing to worry about there, that's for sure.
Like, genetics and nature and nurture, like, all influence each other or whatever. But if you reinforced the part of your brain that enjoys, lolicon or whatever, you have a chance of passing that down either culturally or genetically or whatever. And that's not a good trait worth having. Being attracted to children is something negative. So why the fuck... Like, you can be a content nihilist all you want and just think that this is all engagement and all that kind of shit. But why the fuck wouldn't you at least have the... Chud has plenty of balls. I've seen him be ballsy in the past. But why wouldn't you just say, hey, this is fucked up. Don't do it. And if you're a part of my audience and you consume it, then fuck you. Stop doing that.
Now, maybe... So...
I just don't think anyone really cares that much. Connor cares, like, way too much about this. He's, like, way too passionate over some cartoons.
I at this point really do like Chud too, because I've kind of tried to practice radical acceptance with him. Like he is who he is, and he does what he does.
Bro, you're a freak. You're a freak. No one needs to be accepted by you. You're a freak, bro.
I love you for what you are.
Yeah, Chud, I love you for who you are and what whatever you are. And maybe he's articulated this already. Tell me if I don't consume his content as much as it sounds like maybe you do. So maybe he has articulated this, but my first reaction to I was aware of the food shops shit. Yeah, but I didn't know Chud had taken any kind of like stance on it.
No, it's very ambivalent, almost
but
refusing to take a stand.
He's got PTSD and something else, I think. PTSD and major depressive, I think he said. F-bombs.
Well, but didn't you say that he said he wasn't going to?
He's not going to be engaging with them in the future, and he
so
wanted
when you
to
said
make people vaguely aware of it, so they could make their own decision about whether or not they would continue to associate.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little confused of the stance he took, but my initial reaction was, is this not the same Chud Logic who was like besties with Mr. Girl and like refused my pleas to him to stop platforming this fuck?
The thing is that Mr. Girl wasn't saying, I jerk off to Lolly, was he? That's not what Mr. Girl was saying at all. And also, there's a lot of benefit to interacting with Mr. Girl. There's no benefit to interacting with food shops. Mr. Girl was big at the time. He's really good at making content. He's funny as fuck. There's lots of benefits to that. There's no benefit to you just going on the weird trans pedophiles panel. There's no benefit to that.
Fucking degenerate freak that is a danger to children in many of the same ways as it sounds like
Old man laundry bomber.
Like this food shops person is, and what's the fucking difference?
You gotta get burned first. Also, Max is charismatic in like a weird cult leader way, and you know he's got all these.
Listen to that when he hears Connor say Max is charismatic. Did you see that fucking face he just pulled?
And what's the fucking difference?
You gotta get burned first. Also, Max is charismatic in like a weird cult leader way.
Look at him, he's seething. He's fucking seething.
And you know he's got all these weird positions that you can't tell if he's taking seriously or not. And yeah, so like, but for me, like, yeah, these are enough substantive red flags that if Max was like, hey,
watching Kuihman at my company Christmas party on the smoking balcony, wow. What great use of your time at the party. You're like the Phil's guy meme. It's like they don't know I'm watching Kuihman. You know, they don't know I'm a pay piggy for some 24-year-old British kid on the internet.
hey, I want to talk to you one-on-one about XYZ topic, or I'll be on this panel, are you coming, whatever. I'm not gonna like jump ship or whatever because I don't want to like be afraid to interact with him. But I'm gonna tell him
he admitted to being a rapist at the very least. So
it's the thing. Okay, I don't want to have to steel man this shit, but I guess I have to. So his whole narrative, which by the way, like, I'm not trying to defend at all. His narrative was that her body language was saying that she wanted to do something. It seemed like she was teasing. She said no. He went through with it anyways. She didn't object. They hooked up later. Therefore, he kind of assumed that it was the slut Madonna dynamic where men simultaneously don't want women to be whores. They want them to be difficult to get, but then they also want women who will do slutty things in the bedroom. That's like the closest I can get to a fucking steel man. So I'm not going to like round up a posse and like go find Max as like a forcible rapist and like hunt him down to the ends of the earth and try to like convict him for decades or whatever. I think he's a weirdo avant-garde artist who likes to dabble in.
Oh no, it's so crazy. Wait, Connor's back. Actually, guys, we're taking back everything we said about Connor. Guys, Bug, if you edit this video, grab this clip and put this at the start. Disclaimer. I do not think anything bad about Counterpoints. Counterpoints totally redeemed. I love Counterpoints. He's defending Mr. Girl to Old Man Laundry. This is based. This is fucking based. This is good content. He name dropped me. He's based. I love Counterpoints. I love Counterpoints. He's not a mall cop. He was a real cop. He watched his partner die in his arms.
weirdest shit possible for attention. If you look at his entire, who could be covering up wildly nefarious shit with his avant-garde bullshit. But if you look at his career, it's like getting in trouble, I think in high school as well, for doing a newspaper, getting in trouble in college for doing a newspaper, getting in trouble in college for sympathizing with a mass shooter publicly, being a nude model at Hollywood parties, being
a nude model in front of high school students also, and saying that it's inherently sexual,
right?
He's so based.
And chasing women around their house. I mean, like,
yeah, I'm not defending any of this shit. Yeah,
stop defending Max. What are you doing? I'm just
but the point being that, like, I understand why Mr. Girl was interesting and why everybody found Mr. Girl interesting, and they dealt with him despite all of the challenges or whatever, or all of the things that you could cancel him for. I understand why he's fascinating, but also I think that shtick does burn out. And that's effectively what happened, was the shtick burnt out. You can only have so many meta conversations about fucked up shit before you're just like, hey, where is solid ground here? And when you find out solid ground is fucked up, you don't want to participate anymore, which I think is what happened.
I guess it just seems weird that he has not just, I hate that people treat him like he hasn't admitted to, like, very awful things that aren't like, oh, well, maybe there's some interpretation here, and maybe he was acting in this instance. If there are 100 really fucked up things that we're analyzing about his past, there are at least 10 where he has just said, no, like, I enjoyed this. I did do this thing. And I wonder then, why is that any different or more acceptable than this trans chick who said, yeah, I consume lolly content? Is it just that she was a little bit more honest about it?
Yeah.
Or like
that is how people always talk about Mr. Girl, though, Stylo. That's how people always talk about Mr. Girl. He's a Twitch antichrist. He's literally the antichrist. These people. He's everything bad that you can possibly be because he went against Destiny.
That she wasn't like. Yeah. I don't see much of a difference, I guess.
Yeah, no. I understand your objection to it, and you try to use logic in order to deduce this. I'll just say straight up, I Kill Pedophiles, that song is a fucking banger. So if Foodslops made a song called I Kill Pedophiles, I would probably have a little bit more latitude. Also,
that's so true. Like, Mr. Girl actually had talent on, like, Foodslops. Okay? You can get away with a lot more if you've got a little bit of fucking talent, okay? Put out a fucking sick rap album and we'll talk, okay, Foodslops? Then we'll talk. Then you can talk about pedo shit, okay? Then you can say you want to fuck kids.
I think that Max always played in this, not plausible deniability, because he admitted to plenty of, like, fucked up thoughts and all that kind of stuff, but he also played in this area where he was like, what is the line between thought and action? And what is the, how much can I think fucked up things without,
Star was saying you wouldn't listen to a Foodslops album? You wouldn't? Really? What if it was like this? What if it was like this?
There's only one mantis, one true mantis. People say mantis. Mantis repairman. People say mantis. Mantis repairman.
Food Rapes would moan on one track and you'd Van Gogh yourself.
it affecting the real world or affecting me. We even had a conversation about this. And from me, I'm of a much more like prude conservative thing, which is like, don't indulge in the most fucked up parts of your brain, because you're going to reinforce those parts and then eventually they're going to become action. And I think also if you look at the community that he attracted as a result of playing those games, there were probably plenty of people who were like, oh, no, I'm not a pedophile. But because they found enough latitude with playing those mind games with themselves and with other people, they found a relatively safe space to hang out. And they probably created parallel communities that were a little bit more open about their worst impulses and
Ito.
worst thoughts. And so what I take an infinitely more conservative perspective on negative thoughts, negative feelings, homicidal impulses, weird sexual impulses, etc., which is basically like indulge the ones that can be productive for society and then eliminate the ones that are not productive for society. And it's your job as a
he's absolutely
moral
distraught that there's
agent
mystical defense going on right now. He cannot handle it.
and an individual to make those choices, and making those choices is actually an evaluation of your worth as a human being, whether or not you actively choose to do good or evil. But in order to even follow me in that conception, you have to believe in good and evil in the first place.
I feel like I'm probably the one person in this space that's more prudish and like that than you, because, and I mean, I live in a town of like, less than 1,000 people in like Trump country, but I love it here. The people are infinitely better than the people that were in the hyper progressive college town that I moved away from. But the thing that I always was stuck on with conversations about Max, and a lot of the stuff you've articulated even, is there are certain thoughts that I would hear people in conversations with him and see in his chat and all that stuff, where I'm just like, normal people don't have that thought. Like, it's not about, do I indulge this dark thought? There are certain thoughts that are dark enough that it's like, that would never cross my mind. Like,
I believe that's true, Atari DC, that it was his police report that was in the documentary about Max when he showed a police report about Max. Yeah, I believe that to be true.
Do people, is that normal? More normal than to have these like pedophilic thoughts, or like super aggressively like violent thoughts about like harming other people, where I'm just sitting here like, I don't have those thoughts, and I feel like normal people don't have those thoughts.
Yeah, that is insufficient. And the reason why I think it's insufficient, and the reason why I sympathize with dissident thought, and you could talk about, Max or Lav, or you could talk about Cultured Thug or Keith Woods or Nick Fuentes or anything like that, is hold on, I got one asshole in chatter. Bosun, come to my house. As a matter of fact, I'll just address him. So, Bosun, do this. Walk. Not actually advocating for self-harm. I'm just trying to do
What's going on here?
If you walk into your kitchen right now and you take a potato peeler and you start skinning yourself, there's obviously going to be a good and a bad to that situation. So the good would be not skinning yourself, not hurting your nerves, not hurting your muscles, etc., etc. Whereas the bad will be doing that. Now extrapolate that out to a human being. Now extrapolate that out to animals. Now take degrees of harm. Now take moral consideration. Pretending that there's no good and no bad is the exact kind of like anti-realist leftist retardation that we're kind of fucking talking about. Anyways, sorry.
Okay, nobody. Great, nice watch frame, bro.
Appeal
It's
to
by the way,
funny.
homies.
back in kind of a carnival show, right?
Bad,
Yeah.
good and bad. Colonial, genocidal, all the things. Yeah, that
Right.
fuck.
Exactly. So, but my point being that in a space that kind of prove you wrong on what? I'm about to fucking mute you, bro. I just said. Like, anyways.
It's got Spurgeon.
Because we exist, I don't want to say popular, but he got infamous off of debating people on whether or not like incest was morally neutral. And so allegedly he remains undefeated in that category, which I would assume like I would go totally like rule utilitarian, which it's like, even if you're trying to bang your sister and you wear a condom and you can guarantee not getting pregnant and all that kind of shit, it's still fucked up because you should encourage that fucking societally, because eventually somebody's going to make a fucking mistake and it's going to result in, you know, higher chances of you know, family falling apart and or fucked up kids and or genetic issues and or XYZ ABC. That's where I would
turn
go.
into the type of chatter that you had to mute.
Right. But if hurdles are faced,
Jesus Christ.
that's still making like what was pretty much like an ironclad perspective that was pretty pro-life. And then he was just running Hassan in circles because Hassan was talking about like personhood and consciousness and humanity and morality and like all this kind of shit, and like Destiny would just like dog walk him through each perspective, and upon further scrutiny you're gonna
kind of get it, but there's I guess a like new media literacy that needs to be developed to help people differentiate, like, okay, when are these people being serious? When are they just goofing and they're just hanging with their boys? When are they engaging in these thought experiments and like just trying to see where these logical pathways can lead? Because if you don't have a really solid understanding of which one of these things is being modes is being activated right now, if the audience is big enough, you're gonna get a few people who are gonna interpret one scenario as being the other, and that could lead to and then I also think too there's like a new media literacy issue where people need to have a better understanding of like, okay, if this person refuses to give me any semblance of idea of why I should give a shit about their perspective when I can't assess their credibility in any way, then you need to understand that they're you have to assume that they have really no actual value. Like it might be entertaining, it might be interesting, but at the end of the day, you can't be like, okay, because my favorite streamer who has like an anime avatar said this thing that I found compelling, if you want to take that and then see like, okay, well, does the actual research align with that? Does like do real reputable sources like align with that or not?
Dude, this fucking sucks, doesn't it?
Be known by the other party. Nick Fuentes did this for years, where
yes, I think the distinction is, for me, is that somebody like Sam Hyde is so obviously not attempting to be taken seriously.
Sure.
He's pure entertainer. And and you might not like the forms of entertainment he offers, but then I feel like it's a little weird to lump in somebody like Sunday or even Fuentes. These are people who
He hates Sunday?
do want to be taken seriously, and the defense of like plausible deniability by way of like, maybe I'm just being ironic, that's, I guess, for me as like an adult who has like a family and like obligations, I go to political commentators with the expectation that like this is a serious person. And I think
you're trying to get an approximation of like reality, and what I would say is you're fucked. And if you're
right, I've come to that conclusion.
Yeah, but not only are you fucked, but the real legacy media is increasingly becoming like the social media and the internet media. And the reason why is because I don't think that like, mainstream media pundits are going to be making like post-ironic jokes or whatever like anytime soon. But I do think that the reason why you see pundits becoming increasingly charismatic, increasingly comfortable building narratives that don't necessarily align with facts, all that kind of stuff. Weirdly enough, I feel like it's
This is so painful.
it's an anti-modernist or post. It's the webcam what's happening. So get like Tucker Carlson, it's comfortable. You have to have a destination in order to be in his position about how he could literally, and instead he like interviews.
Plays into the dynamics you just described. So I was having a conversation actually with Erudite and two other guys with the Prep for the Bridges podcast thing, because I applied
Oh man.
to be on that. And we got talking about new media versus old media and the evolution of media consumption.
What is this? This is Connor talking to Londre. I got mentioned earlier. They're talking because Brianna Wu pays both of them. Brianna Wu started a weekly show with Connor, has done one out of the month that they've been doing it, so 1 week out of 4. Hasn't shown up for the others, so now he's having Londre on, who gets paid by Brianna Wu to dox people. Or, well, is trying to get paid by Brianna Wu to dox people. So, yep.
And especially in the political perspective, it's really started to worry me is, we've seen a migration away from old media and traditional media to this new form of media, and in large part because I think people started to see how just awful and in a lot of ways useless the cable news has become, and even local newspapers are just kind of a joke, and people started to distrust them in some ways for invalid reasons, but in a lot of cases for very valid reasons, and they had a desire to consume a new form of media. And then you see the rise of podcasts and streamers, and it's not really any better of
It's
at its
democratized.
best. It's yes, in that way, that's great. But in terms of
Yeah, this is democracy, man.
value to the consumer, if the consumer is actually like coming to that ecosystem of media for news analysis and so on.
Okay, dude.
Was
okay, dude. I don't care.
Like what if something new thing would be when it sucked in the first place, and it still sucks.
Yeah. So and by the way, I don't think that there is a going back. People finding them commentate in whatever. Two things, crap. And the reason why democracy is you have people vote and elected representatives. No single human can do it all, and so we need specialists in government to be appointed to govern. Okay, that's allegedly a Republican bankroll were the people who were excited to get into the Cuban market in order to exploit the natural resources that would be opened up by that market. So there's never really
looking for
been
new content.
A golden age of information.
This is painful.
And then the only thing that I'm hoping about the democratization of information is the fact that there's opportunity for people like you and me. So you have a skill set, which is doing opposition research and trying to hold people accountable to some level of truth. My skill set is just trying to say it like it is, and some people like it and some people don't. It's an opportunity. It gets me money. It gives me ad revenue, and I still get to do it. So I'm not complaining at all. To quote Littlefinger, chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
Wow, it's just like Warhammer. It's just like Warhammer. Just like Littlefinger from Warhammer. How do I get on the Woo payroll? I'll say anything. Doc some ass supporters on Twitter, apparently.
Very cynical assessment that I did not expect to end with a glimmer of hope. And you somehow got there. Got there. I'm gonna hang on to that.
Well, that's my that's kind of my whole thing. That's part of the reason why I love Warhammer. I saw somebody, pop in a chat, Satius. They're like, I like Warhammer. like the I like turtles guy.
Oh no, that's one of mine, isn't it? Oh, for fuck's sake! Oh no. Oh, you're here. Oh, bro. That's just mean.
But yeah, like that's part of the reason why I like Warhammer. That's part of the reason why I like Grimdark. That's part of the reason why, I broke down a TV series recently where basically everybody dies. And
Who's actually just saying, yeah, I like politics because I like Warhammer?
one of the characters is like heroic and valiant in spite of everybody dying. And I think that's like the cool thing about the human spirit. I'm kind of a pessimist by nature, is doing the right thing in spite of how fucked up shit is.
Oh, this is
I
fucked.
think that's like inescapably human.
Yeah. I had so many topics of conversation and little notes of questions I wanted to ask about, like Israel and other shit, but I wonder if we should. Do you want to go into that, or do you want
We
to
can
do that again? Do that.
I would say let's go for like another 25. After 2 hours, I get sloppy. You want to hit? Let's hit it.
Yeah, like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's talk about Israel, because why not?
Let's not. Let's actually just not. Let's just not. Let's not do that.